Tonight's the night. Hey, great to have you here. So today I'll be reviewing episode 3 of Dexter Resurrection. I know I'm a little bit late on this, and this will probably be a little bit shorter of a review compared to my other videos. So we open things up with Dexter struggling with his Car rating and getting help from his friend Blessing. Later in the episode, we get a hint of what's to come when Blessing's covering up his external dryer exhaust with what looks to be the strip of metal. We then have Dexter ordering some M99 over the phone, pretending to be some made-up guy called Dr. Bateman, aka Patrick Bateman, which he also did in Original Sin, so kind of a callback to that show as well. And I guess we've kind of abandoned the whole ketamine thing from New Blood. Also, it seems a little strange. Why wouldn't he want to switch to something else after getting caught in New Blood? But either way, we then see Harrison getting questioned by one of the detectives and telling them his alibi of sleeping with some girl that night, and they pretty much leave things off with the detective telling Harrison to give a name and information of the person he had a one-night stand with if he can eventually remember it. We then see Dexter having dinner with Blessing's family, and we find out that they did a background check on him, and he weirdly asks for a copy of the report. I don't think that's really normal for him to have done. It's also a bit strange that they willingly just gave him a copy of it. It seemed like he wanted to get that information so we can use the same company, but I think it would have made a lot more sense if he just asked them, hey, what service did you use to look me up? I think asking that question probably expresses more curiosity as opposed to being kind of suspicious wanting to see what's in your background check. Dexter subsequently tracks down and breaks into the apartment of the dark passenger. He winds up seeing the 4 buttons that have been pressed previously on his keypad outside based on the smudges that are on the pad, and he winds up correctly guessing that his lock code is his birthday backwards. Now in the dark passenger's, aka Red's apartment, Dexter winds up finding the murder weapon and trophies up in the ceiling, so it seems like that's a really bad location considering Charlie and Dexter immediately went to that spot. But I guess if you want to say Dexter and Charlie are both in kind of the criminal world, okay, I guess that's fine. We do get a pretty good dialogue with Dexter and Harrison here, Harrison being like, I hated trophies and that kind of stuff, so pretty good deep conversation there. But then Dexter winds up calling Red's employer, and they just publicly give Dexter his schedule and location for the following day. I don't feel like they would really do that. It feels like that's private information, but it kind of makes things convenient for the plot to develop further. We then see Batista for the first time this episode. He gets a call from Sheriff Reed, and as expected, we get information about Dexter's truck having received a speeding ticket, so now Batista knows to head to New York City. We then have a scene where the detective goes into her genius music mode and starts putting the pieces together, but when she gets to the location where the bags were dropped off outside by Harrison, we find out that the camera conveniently has been covered by bird poop, and they just never addressed that. So at this point, we know that there's no footage of Harrison actually coming outside with the trash bags when he murdered that guy. We then cut to Dexter getting some acupuncture from Blessing's daughter, and it seems like he's now magically healed, so I'm doubting they're gonna have too many ailments with him going forward. We then later get him continuing to follow Harrison, but he tells Harry maybe somebody else should protect Harrison and not Dexter. And after having dinner with his friend, Harrison winds up going to stay at her house for the night. We then cut to a scene of Charlie, Uma Thurman's character, and she's having this dinner arranged clearly for all the serial killers, and she pretty much tells this woman who's setting everything up that she needs to be very discreet, implying that this is a very secret dinner and extremely dangerous to be talking about. We then cut back to the hotel, and the detective just barges in on Harrison and asks for the name of his one-night stand. This felt a bit aggressive here considering he was in front of his coworker, but we have the detective take Harrison to the back room and continue to question him, and she winds up perfectly reciting the murder that he did in the first episode, but he winds up denying it and says the reason he never left the hotel is because he's homeless and his friend has been getting him hotel rooms to stay in that were empty, and his friend winds up confirming his story, so they're on the same page there. But I feel like here the detective probably would think they're both in on it, as opposed to Harrison now having clear alibi. It just seems like she would more likely think, hey, both of you probably were involved in this. Then we briefly see Dexter preparing and heading out to take on his alter ego killer. And this next scene both gave me what I've been hoping for, but it also felt like it was a little bit for fan service based on how it came about. So we have Batista at this bar, and he winds up inviting, sure enough, Masuka and Quinn to the bar with him out for drinks, telling them that he's decided he's finally going to retire. And for us, the viewer, he winds up hinting at now wanting to spend his time hunting down Dexter instead, but he doesn't wind up telling Quinn and Masuka. It seemed kind of odd that he wouldn't even tell Quinn and Masuka that Dexter was alive. Maybe that conversation will come up in the future, but he doesn't really tell them anything for now, just that he's retiring. And overall, I did really like seeing the old Miami Metro crew back together, but it just seemed a little bit inorganic and anticlimactic for me. Back with Dexter in his car, he winds up picking up the dark passenger in his car, and during their ride, Red winds up putting his weapon around Dexter's neck as he normally does. We have Dexter drop his syringe here, eventually he's able to reach down and get to it, and then he turns around and stabs Red right in the neck with it. And it's here that we learn that Dexter took that metal strip from Blessing's house and put it around his neck, which he then had covered by wearing a turtleneck. And now back in the dark passenger's apartment on Dexter's kill table, we learned that he hunted Car drivers because it wound up putting his dad's taxi investment out of business, which led to his life being taken, It's a pretty poor reason if you ask me, but I guess that's fine. I guess if we want to say serial killers aren't always rational, so maybe he thought a little bit too deep as far as why his dad wound up dying and blamed it on the your car drivers. And then we have Dexter kill the dark passenger and find the invitation from Charlie in his backpack along with the money. And here it's pretty obvious that Dexter is going to pretend to be the dark passenger and attend this serial killer get together. After cutting up the body, Dexter winds up going to this rough part of town and finding a fire to throw the body into, but not before cutting off his finger so he can enter the party with the dark passenger's thumbprint. And once again, I found the scene to be awfully convenient that Dexter found this location and that nobody's around. If it's supposed to be a rough area, wouldn't somebody be there likely to steal his car, or we would at least see somebody there? And part of me also thought that Dexter literally got caught in New Blood for disposing a body in a fire, so it seems a little strange that he would just go back to doing that once again. Similar to the whole M99 thing, wouldn't he find some alternate paths of doing things as opposed to what he did previously, so we wouldn't have one continuous track of history of things? And that wraps things up. We then cut to the credits, and I still don't love these in comparison to the original show. I get it's the big city lights of New York City, but it felt like the credits here are more in line with an action movie and not a drama TV series. So for an overall score here for this episode, my rating here is going to be a neutral rating. Unlike the last episode though, this is a low neutral. For me, it got close to being a negative episode, but it had enough good things really to keep it in neutral. I did really like the cameos we got here, but it felt a little bit forced to me. We also had a lot of conveniences, and the direction going forward with Dexter now taking on this dark passenger persona feels pretty obvious. But those were just some of my thoughts. Let me know yours down below in the comments. Let's talk all things Dexter Resurrection. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to talk to you again soon.